Anne knew that she wasn't ready for the day to begin, but she was compelled to push the blankets off her body and sit up regardless. She had work to do. Anne was a police officer with 8 years of experience of the job working patrol. She'd seen some things, even in this small town of about 15,000 residents. But what she saw last night kept her from getting much sleep when she finally came home at around 2 a.m. There was a murder. She'd seen drugged-up people do crazy things. She'd seen spouses harm their family in a fit of rage, and she'd seen one gang-related incident on her second year working the job. But this was different. This man was missing a heart. Literally missing a heart. It was just gone. Nothing left but a hole in the chest cavity that went straight through. It wasn't even the abnormally gruesome scene that was bothering her. It was the question, how? How in the world could someone do that? Not to mention why or any of that, but just how? It couldn't have been an animal. This man was inside his own apartment. Someone had to have done it to the man. But how? There were some signs of struggle. Some scratches on the body, but nothing else major that would indicate an intense confrontation. The neighbors overheard a commotion that startled them at around 5:30 p.m. the previous day, literally 30 minutes prior to her scheduled time to clock out for the day, as luck would have it. If they hadn't called 911 to investigate, the stench from the body would have been way worse. She'd experienced that before, too. So she was at least grateful for that bit of fortune. All of the strange details of the incident were still buzzing around her head as she was now making her morning cup of coffee. But what was bothering her the most was that her lieutenant wanted to see her immediately this morning. On a normal case like this, she'd do her initial investigation, secure the scene, and then the detectives would come in and take the case over. No big deal. Get in my office immediately when you arrive on site. Don't go to roll call, just come see me, was the text message she'd received. That sounded pretty important to her. Of course, it could be nothing, but it didn't sound like nothing. It sounded like today was going to be another long day. The office was abnormally quiet. Anne could see through the small window in the door of the muster room where her squad meets for roll call, and everyone was already inside. That was weird. Roll call wasn't for another 15 minutes. She checked her watch to be sure she did indeed arrive early. Yep, she was early. Weird. Have a seat was the only greeting of the day Anne received from her lieutenant. And apparently she was not in the office alone. There was a man seated next to her. His suit was sharp with a high-quality but nondescript looking tie. His shoes were impeccable and polished. All of this belied his physical appearance. He had a jacked-up looking scar on the left side of his face, but otherwise, a normal-looking individual that was clearly in great shape, judging by the muscles protruding from his well-tailored suit. Officer Manning, this gentleman is here to inform you that the case you worked last night is being transferred to his agency. They are taking over all of it. This conversation will not go any further than this room. Answer this man's questions to the best of your ability, and then report to your sergeant for your assignment for today. The lieutenant got up abruptly and gave a side-eyed glare at the stranger in his office, and then walked out. This was not right. Did her lieutenant just get kicked out of his own office? Officer Manning, is this report accurate? Meaning, do you affirm that you provided every detail about the crime scene to the best of your abilities?
Yes, sir. So what agency do you work for?
You are certain that no detail was left out, even the smallest thing that seemed out of place or out of the ordinary.
So I guess you're not going to answer my question. I don't really think I should answer any more of your questions without my attorney present.
Anne didn't like the tone of this Fed or whatever he was. Plus, judging by how this interview was going, she knew she may be held liable for what was said. It seemed like this was not just a fact-gathering interview, but something a bit more important. What had she done wrong? Officer Manning, you are entitled to lawyer up if you so choose. But you need to understand that if you walk out that door without answering my questions, there will be repercussions that go beyond just your career.
Are you threatening me, sir?
Not at all. I'm merely stating facts. Your superior stepped out for a reason. He also gave you an order to comply with my questions. So we can go down that road of non-compliance if you choose, but I guarantee you will not like where that road ends. Anne did not like the fact that this man made a lot of sense about her lieutenant giving her specific orders to answer his questions and then stepped out in order for her to do so in privacy. Probably so he didn't have to be involved any more than he had to. Jerk.
Well, I guess I have no other recourse. Answer your question, yes. I filled out everything perfectly and did not leave any details out. I did a flawless report, just like I always do,
she said with a sarcastic smile. Fine. Now you will do as your superior advised and not speak of this case to anyone. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Good, said the Fed as he stood and walked towards the door. Oh, and Officer Manning. That was actually a good report. Anne didn't know whether to feel incredulous at this encounter or slightly flattered considering the sly smile and wink he gave when he left. She stood up to leave as well when she noticed an object laying on the chair where the Fed was sitting. It was a business card. There was an ornate red cross on the front and nothing more. As she flipped it over, she read, "Our organization would like to chat further. Meet us at this address, 10:30 p.m. You know who we are. KT." Anne's blood ran cold in her veins. It felt like her heart stopped functioning for a moment. She did in fact know who they were. Her father had been recruited by this secret organization back when she was a child, and he was serving in the military at the time. He talked about the organization at first, but then something happened, and he denied their existence until the day he died. Now they were seeking her out. She knew she couldn't refuse to meet them. They were way too powerful. She also didn't know that she wanted to refuse them. Could she get more information from them about her father's mysterious death? Could she get all her questions answered that had been plaguing her for years? Anne didn't know what the outcome would be if she met with a man. But one thing she did know, there was no way she was going to miss that meeting. When Anne arrived at the location listed on the back of the card, she was not surprised to see that it was at some obscure farm with no other buildings on property but an old, dilapidated barn. There were 2 SUVs located in front of it that particularly screamed, "I'm a Fed." So this is where everything would go down tonight. The ominous moon outside really did add to the ambiance of the moment. Knowing what she could remember from her father's mentions of how the organization operated, they probably set this time and place up in advance just to make it look exactly the way it did now. Spooky. "Come in, Officer Manning," said the man she had met earlier that day. He looked even more intimidating in what he was wearing tonight. His clothes were dark with ornate designs that looked stylish yet also functional. The darker-skinned man to his left was wearing something similar. He shared the same haunting look in his eyes. Real recognize real is what she'd heard people say on the street about knowing what people are about just by looking at them. These guys were about living a life no one else would want. It was all right there displayed on their faces. They'd not only seen some things, they'd done some things. "Officer Manning, your job is to stand as a witness, nothing more. Then you can decide. Let's go." Not another word was spoken by either man as she got into the back seat of the darker man's vehicle. Her liaison from earlier had quickly taken the passenger seat and left his vehicle behind with hers. They drove some more back roads until they arrived in front of an old gate attached to a barbed wire fence that had seen better days. They parked the vehicle and all exited at the same time. "Whatever happens here tonight, you are to stay out of it. If we go down, you run. Don't try to fight. It won't work. But you might be able to outrun it, though. You still want to do this?" What? What was happening? Those were some crazy words spoken by her contact, but she knew she had to enter this land of crazy the moment she saw the man's card in her lieutenant's office this morning. She knew there was only one way through this. "Forward." "Let's go," she said, climbing over the gate. The three walked through the woods for what seemed like at least 30 minutes until they finally arrived at a clearing. Once they stepped out of the tree line, Anne could hear a growl that sounded guttural and oddly satiated at the moment. "Our associates have lured it here," said her contact, as he pulled out a pair of knives from somewhere in his outfit. His companion pulled out what looked like a large stick. "Officer Manning, wait here." The men stepped forward and were joined by two others dressed in similar fashion to the men she arrived with. As the four of them approached the central area of interest, an even louder roar echoed from that spot and sent shivers down her spine. The series of events that followed happened in a blur. It was all just so fast. The creature had appeared from nowhere and thrashed out. There were sounds of gunfire, blades puncturing flesh, and flashes of brilliant light from the object held by the darker-skinned companion. The sound of anguish and pain could be heard by not only the creature, but from the humans as well. Then, nothing. Silence. The creature was behind her. She couldn't make out what it looked like. She could only see the teeth and claws and knew she wanted nothing to do with those. She took the advice of her contacts and ran, except she ran towards the center of the clearing where all the others were. She didn't hear anything coming from the area and assumed they were all dead, but she had to be sure. There was just something inside her that made her want to go towards them and not the woods into what could possibly be safety. Turns out, it was the right call. She knew the creature was in pursuit, but she pressed on and finally made it to the center. All four of the others were on the ground, facing down in the dirt, not moving at all. She heard the howl again and knew she had to take her stand. Anne pulled her service pistol and opened fire. Nothing. The creature just moved right through the bullets as if they were merely drops of air. She moved a little bit further and crouched over her contact in a protective posture and fired her last two rounds. Again, nothing. The creature swiped its claws at her and propelled her into the air, knocking her back 6 feet from her position. She hit the ground hard and moaned in agony, the claws ripping through her flesh like wet paper. She could feel the blood leaking from her wounds. She knew it was foolish to do so, because she was out of ammo, but she didn't want to go out not attacking, so she aimed her pistol at the creature a third time and fired. It worked. 3 flashes of blue light were expelled from her firearm and hit the creature directly in the chest. The creature roared in pain and stopped in its tracks. As the fury in its eyes intensified, it opened its mouth to take a bite. Anne closed her eyes, awaiting her impending doom. But it never came. She heard a sickening, wet, ripping sound, and then silence. The Fed from earlier was standing over the beheaded creature, with his daggers glowing the same color blue as the mysterious round she shot earlier. The man was breathing heavy and turned to check on the pulses of his companions. Anne didn't know what to say or what to think, so she just sat on the ground in silence for a moment, trying to collect her senses. The Fed made his way to her after a few minutes and stretched out his hand to help her up. "Officer Manning? Anne, you did very well today. We'd like to extend an official offer to you to join the Knights Templar." Imagine a time of knights in shining armor, crusades against the infidels, and a holy land that beckoned to all who sought adventure and salvation. In the heart of this tumultuous era, a secret society emerged, shrouded in mystery and power. They were the Knights Templar. Founded by 9 French knights in the 12th century, the Templars initially dedicated themselves to protecting pilgrims on their journey to Jerusalem. But their mission soon evolved into something far more ambitious. With the blessing of the Pope, they amassed vast wealth and land, becoming one of the most powerful and influential forces in Europe. The Templars were more than just soldiers. They were also monks, bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They established a monastic order complete with their own churches and rituals. But beneath the pious facade, rumors began to circulate. Some whispered of secret rituals and practices of hidden knowledge and forbidden treasures. As their power grew, so too did the envy and suspicion of others. The French king, Philip IV, became particularly jealous of the Templars' wealth and influence. He accused them of heresy and idolatry, claiming they had engaged in secret rituals that defied the teachings of the Church. The Templars were arrested and tortured, their confessions extracted under duress. Eventually, the Pope succumbed to pressure from the king and ordered the dissolution of the order. The Templars were hunted down and killed, their legacy seemingly erased from history. But the story of the Knights Templar did not end there. Their disappearance sparked countless rumors and legends. Some claimed they even had hidden their vast treasure, while others believed they had survived and continued their secret work, whatever that might be. The Templars became a symbol of mystery and intrigue, their name synonymous with hidden knowledge and ancient secrets. To this day, the Knights Templar remain a fascinating and enigmatic figure in history. Their story is one of power, wealth, and controversy, a tale that continues to capture the imagination of people around the world, just like my story earlier. So there you have it, folks. The mysterious tale of the Knights Templar. A story filled with intrigue, power, and a touch of the supernatural. I hope you liked my original story in the first part of this video. Something new I'm trying. Let me know if you want more of that style on this channel. Do you want me to focus more on the story or more on the facts afterwards? Do you want me to get rid of the facts completely? You tell me. I just want to be sure that you enjoyed watching it and found it entertaining. If you did enjoy this deep dive into Templar lore, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the Lore Chronicles for more fascinating historical mysteries, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Templars. We'll see you next time.